Welcome back, everybody. Today's video is addressing those out there who struggle with consistency. This is what I believe to be one of the #1 problems for people that prevents them from gaining MMR. And this boils down to, I feel like if you're one of those people that thinks to themselves, man, a lot of the stuff I see pros do, a lot of the stuff I see in BSJ's videos or some other person's videos, I already know I'm supposed to do that. But the problem is that you don't always do it. This is the video for you guys, because this video is going to address that problem which holds people back, and we're going to talk about how to increase your consistency with stuff that you already know. And in the meantime, you might actually learn something that you didn't know during this video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I think the common misconception that leads to inconsistency is people thinking, I already know this, I don't need to pay much attention to it. But it's not about what you do know. I think the mistake comes in the fact that consistency boils down to knowing when crucial mistakes happen and when crucial decisions need to be made. So I've got 3 to 4 crucial moments in the game that you guys are very likely to be prone to mistakes, and emphasizing that these are cues during the game that the most important thing is that you make a decision. And this is going to help break the autopilot, help break the inconsistencies, and make sure that you follow up on the knowledge that you already have gained. So let's jump into the first example. So for the sake of this video, we're going to go in chronological order of when these decisions will likely impact you during the game. So we're going to start with something that often happens in the first minute or two, or at least in the laning phase. So one of the first cues that means you need to be thinking critically about it and make a decision, or make sure you're not doing something wrong, is when you get 2 range creeps in the lane. So what you're going to see is the moment that this 2 range creep thing happens is right now. So what 2 range creeps means is that you are going to have a lot of enemy creeps dying in a small amount of time, because range creeps do significantly more damage than melee creeps. So what 2 range creeps often signifies is that I should very reluctantly ever leave this area that I'm in right now, because I'm going to miss CS if I do. And it's going to be a lot of CS per second, right, that I'm going to miss if I leave this area. So the way that I know people are making these mistakes when I'm coaching them, and it's happening a lot, and a lot of my coaching students' responses is, I already know that I'm not supposed to do this, or I know I am supposed to do this. I can tell that you're on autopilot if you're either not reacting to stimuli that's supposed to cause you to make a decision, or you're not playing disciplined in regards to situations that require you not to do anything else and keep your attention here. So in this example, the mistake people make is that they are the dog to the butterfly. They're busy, they're doing their thing, and they're like, oh, a butterfly over here. And then they get distracted from what matters. So in a simple way, in lane, no matter what core role you are, the most important thing that matters is creeps. So what he should never do here is leave this area and not get these 3 creeps, because these creeps are going to die so quickly. If you're wanting to be aggressive, an even better thing you could do is try to kill these creeps even faster, get that level 2 on a hero like Anti-Mage, and immediately blink onto heroes and be aggressive. But you're going to see in this example that he walks over to take a trade with his support on the side. But meanwhile, all of these creeps over here, he even missed XP for 2 of them, right? He gets a good trade. He burns the mana of the opponent, but he missed 4 creeps of CS, and he also missed 2 creeps of experience. That is the equivalent of the opponent denying an entire creep wave in your face, right? Because you got half XP and 0 CS. So lesson number 1, when you have 2 range creeps, be very reluctant to leave the lane to do anything else like trade or kill. Situation number 2 is when a fresh creep wave, the one over here, is going to enter tower range. Now, there's a lot of ways that you can prevent this from happening in the first place, but the point of this video is to have moments in the game that mean a lot to you that you should consider, right? So enemy creeps going into your tower means the same thing of 2 range creeps, where the lane's going to die really fast. It prevents you from being allowed to be aggressive. But most notably, unlike the 2 range creep situation, you can actually make sure that the lane does not get pushed by pulling these creeps outside of tower range. So in this example, what I would want him to do is right here where these 3 creeps, maybe he doesn't think they're going to get into tower range, right? So in this moment, when he sees that the enemy creeps are within tower range, what I would want him to do is get them outside of tower range so that the lane does not push. So what I need him to do is walk either this side or upwards and then either use the portrait to aggro or move his camera and use the doom to aggro, such that you then pull these creeps outside of tower range. Otherwise, as you see here, the lane is going to push and be near the opponent's tower when we just don't want that. So now that the creeps are up here, instead of feeling comfortable laning because it is 2v1, he went back to block these creeps. What's funny about that is I would consider walking back to block these creeps a more advanced decision than pulling the creeps outside of tower. But this is one of many options. So just to quickly show you myself doing this in a live game. So this is something that can potentially happen when you and your teammate block level 1 to try to get the lane closer to tower and the opponent doesn't block at all. So notice how I know it's going to go into my tower range ahead of time, and I walk to the side, aggro the Spectre, and pull the creeps out of tower range. And so even though it's not ideal where the lane's still slightly pushing, if you see what happens over time, I'm allowed to be aggressive. I make sure I deny creeps as much as possible. When we push, I'm denying. So the lane's still going to push forward a bit, but now we're back to normal. And instead of being like all the way up here, we're back here. A significant difference made by having the presence of mind to aggro outside of tower. But the thing is, the emphasis of this video is when the creeps walk into your tower, there is a decision to be made. You have to understand that the implication is the lane is going to push and a lot of creeps are going to die. Is there something that you can do about that? So another example of creeps being under tower that you can use to your advantage is I see that there's an enemy here that's trying to be aggressive on me. And anytime that you're under tower and the opponent's trying to be aggressive on you, you can aggro them to pull the creeps away from them so that they would have to go further into tower to kill you. So notice how I'm going to aggro him, pull this creep this way, and he's going to stay here to deny this, which is actually going to set us up to turn and kill him. But the emphasis about this is that by aggroing the creeps that he was trying to deny, because better players may like assume that, you know, when you're under tower, you can't hit them. It's this whole idea that if I'm under tower and I'm CSing, I'm vulnerable because I'm busy CSing because creeps are dying really fast. It's the same idea when I have double range creep. So what I'm looking at here is that I have an option to pull the lane outside of tower. I have an option to aggro the creeps backwards, or I have the option to just do nothing. But the point is to be making a decision, because a player like I coached, you guys are often just not making a decision at all. And I see that across all of your games. So lesson number 2 is when the enemy creeps go into your tower, a crucial decision must be made. So the next decision is one that's going to backfire on him at minute 11. But the emphasis of when you are supposed to make this decision is before the game even starts and the draft is going on. And the decision that I'm referring to is the fact that he has not taken a point in his counterspell. So let's completely ignore for a second that he's against Doom, who's level 6, and not having a point in his counterspell against Doom at level 6 is very bad. But the reason that I'm talking about him not having a point here is during the game of Dota itself, it's very hard to think about everything. But if you get in the habit of thinking about the importance of each one of your spells at the start of the game, before you load in, before you're busy hitting creeps, before you're thinking about what items you're going to buy, before you're busy with all the mechanics, beginning of the game is the next portion that I want you guys to be making sure you're making crucial decisions. And what I mean by that is, let's think about the impact of all of his spells this particular game. And this is the exercise that you should go through every individual game. So mana burn is more powerful against heroes that have higher percent mana, meaning they have higher int. And same with his ulti. His ulti is better with heroes that have higher mana pools and higher int. So in this example, the only intelligence hero on the entire enemy team is Shadow Shaman. And the 3 cores on the opponent team, none of which have high mana pools. TA can block his ulti with refraction. Doom, you're either getting doomed or you're killing him because he has no mana. And Jug, very low mana pool. So these 2 spells, not all that impactful this game, especially when it's only good against a support. Blink, on the other hand, it's like Blink is Blink. In this particular example, Blink doesn't really do well against any particular hero or spell. It's just nice to be able to max it out. It's one of those spells that I would consider in the category of, do I need the other spells, the ones that are more situational, or can I afford to max this one out? So we're kind of already saying we don't really need that many points in mana break. Maybe 1 or 2 would be good enough just based on the heroes we're looking at. But then what is counterspell good against? Okay, let's see. So against Shadow Shaman, it's a little bit difficult to reflect his Hex, but it's possible perhaps to reflect his Shackles, to reflect his Ether Shock, depending if he's using it in a predictable manner. So it's worth considering taking at like level 3, because pretty much on Anti-Mage, it's, if you have your knowledge of Anti-Mage, you're guaranteed to take 1 point in each of these spells at level 1 and 2. But it's definitely worth considering Counterspell level 3, given the fact that the enemy support has 3 single target spells. Now, when we think about this spell, when we have to use it, like when is it really good? Well, it's super good against Doom. So that means we would at the very least want to point in it before Doom is level 6. It's very good against Juggernaut's level 6 because you reflect his Omni Slash. So you'd want to point in it before you interact with Jug on the map. So if you had thought about all of this stuff before the game, you're much less likely to go towards the Jug when you don't have a point in this. And the other hero would be Ogre, which is really easy to reflect his spells because Ignite has really long cast time that it's up in the air, projectile speed, and his Fire Blast also has a really long cast time. So you can very easily, predictably use this spell. But the point of this is a lot of you watching are probably thinking, God, this guy's an idiot. There's so obvious that he should have a point in this. What is he doing? But this is a result of not making a crucial decision when you are supposed to make it, or thinking about a situation when you are supposed to think about it. And so this type of situation only happens if you are autopiloting through the end of the draft phase, through the pregame where you have time and energy and attention to think about this kind of stuff. And what that's going to do is future you at 11 minutes into the game is going to be grateful for pregame you having thought about this, because you're not going to do this, right? You're not going to blink on Jug and get Omni Slashed. So these are very, what I would consider noob mistakes, but it's important to think about why people are making these inconsistent mistakes. This is like one guy sadly getting picked on in my video, but I'm making this video because this has happened in so many of my coaching sessions in so many different ways. And rather than nitpicking the individual instances, I want to supply you with an example of how I would think about it. But the emphasis is, if you are struggling with your skill build during the game, or you feel like you don't always have the spells you need when you need them, this is something that can be thought about. It can be honed during the pregame part of the game, and it doesn't need to be something that you think in depth about during the game. You'll just remember during the game, like, oh, if I want to go on Jug, I need this point, so I'm not going to blink, or I'm not going to TP here. That sort of thing. It will guide your decision making during the game. Okay, guys, the next example, the time in the game where you're supposed to think very critically about your decision, is when you enter the mid lane. Now, that may seem so basic and so general, but this has been a topic of some of my past videos, and it has been something I have seen nearly every carry, especially even other core roles, coaching student I have, make this mistake. So there's two types of situations you run into when you run into the mid lane. The reason why the mid lane is so impactful is the map is now divided in half. A lot of new players would think the map is divided like this, you know, top left corner to bottom right corner. But the map really, and the way Dota gets played, is divided down the mid lane in half. So what ends up happening is, which half of the map you go to after you go to the mid lane is incredibly important. And if you're not thinking about it critically, you're effectively making a coin flip. And there are so many possible punishments that you can experience during the game itself if you make the wrong decision to go left or to go right. So in this exact example, and this is something where what I'm going for is, if you enter the mid lane, whether it's to hit some creeps or to take farm, during the time that you're going to leave the lane, that you think about what I'm about to tell you, right? So right now, he takes a fight, they get 3 kills, they were losing, great, they got 3 kills. When the opponent is dead, and that is the situation you find yourself in, then what that means is you pretty much have free reign of the map. And so what half of the map we would want to go to is the one that is the most efficient for us, right? That makes sense. They're dead. We don't have to think about reasons that we're afraid of. We can just go to the best part of the map. So if we took my mindset and said, I have a crucial decision, people are dead, what is the most efficient part of the map? We look at this part with 1 creep in vision. We don't have Battle Fury yet, so we can't jungle. And then we look at this part with like 8 creeps. And if we did that, maybe, like, since we're new to it, we would walk this way and then we'd go bottom, right? But because this player is not making these decisions, they're not actually thinking about this critically, they're going to run top with the rest of their team and clear camps in front of everybody. And then look at what happens bottom, right? This is just farm that nobody ends up getting. This is like 15 creeps that just go to waste, and it ends up being his like off-lane Bloodseeker that now farms it, and now he's a carry that's like in the opponent's side of the map taking like dangerous farm when he just gave up like 12 creeps for free. So when you make this decision about the mid lane when people are alive, what's important to note is that there are numerous cues that you can see that tell you what part of the map is likely to have people fight on it. So rather than supplying you guys with a bunch of examples, what I mean by this is if you go into the mid lane and most people in the game are alive, what our goal is based on the heroes on our team and who wants to fight, and based on the heroes on their team and who wants to fight, what half of the map is more likely going to have a fight on it. And then based on my items, based on my levels, based on my timings, based on how good of a game I'm having, do I want to fight or not? So this decision process goes like this. I enter the mid lane. Is the map free for me, or are people all alive? If the map is free, you go to the half of the map that's the most efficient. If everyone is alive, I ask myself, based on the hero's timings, if the fight is likely to be on the top half of the map or the bottom half of the map. Other considerations for where it's going to be can be based on Roshan's positioning, and maybe they have an Ursa or a TA hero that's likely to take Roshan. Based on Tormentor positioning, if they have a hero that takes Tormentor well. But the point is, after you've decided what part of the map is likely going to have the fight on it, then the only question left is, do I want to be a part of fights? And one thing I've found in so many of my coaching students is they'll have like Brown Boots Battle Fury, Treads Battle Fury. They'll be 500 gold off of a BKB, and they will leave mid lane and go towards their team and effectively get stuck in a fight that they don't want to be taking. So most of the time when I find people in situations where they're in fights they don't want to take, or they're in parts of the map they don't want to be, what I often have to do is rewind to up to like 30 seconds to like a minute ago that they were in the mid lane and they could have had the information to go the other way, but instead they chose this direction. And that's why map positioning as a carry, as any core role, even as a support, is absolutely essential. So every time you enter the mid lane, there is a crucial decision to be made. Now, last but not least of our examples for the video, this is a mistake that I see a lot of lower MMR players make. Keep in mind, this player is about 3k MMR. Look at the timer, 1955. Camps are going to be respawning, and he's got a Battle Fury. He doesn't really want to fight looking at his items. So he's going to walk past these camps, and now what? Look at all of this time wasted. Our job as an anti-mage is to hit creeps. So why does this happen? There's potentially two reasons, right? One reason is he may not be the most efficient player that is not really keenly aware of how many creeps he's supposed to be hitting. But I would argue that the most likely reason that this sort of thing happens to somebody is because they're not keenly aware of what the time on the clock is. So I asked him why he passed up the creep camps, and his answer was, I didn't realize they were spawning. So the next crucial decision that I'm emphasizing to you guys is the importance of checking the clock. I think everyone and their mother knows how important it is to know what time it is in Dota. There's so many objectives in the game right now on a timer. There's runes, there's bounty runes, there's wisdom shrines, there's tormentor, there's Roche, there's camp spawning every minute, there's creep waves every 30 seconds. There are so many reasons to keep an eye on the clock. So this is for people who feel like they're struggling to check the clock. There are 3 indicators of when you should check the clock. Number 1 is when you finish a creep wave or you are leaving your lane. So anytime you are finished farming a creep wave, ideally you get better at it so that while you're finishing the creep wave, knowing that you're going to finish it, you then check the clock. And the other emphasis being when you leave your lane for the same reason, right? It could be that you're farming the creep wave. It could be that you're a support. If you're leaving your lane or finishing a creep wave, check the timer. That is a great example. When you have finished a fight, you have taken an objective, something significant has just finished, whether it's Roshan, whether it's a tower, whether it's a big team fight, check the clock. That's number 2. And number 3 is when you enter and when you finish a creep camp. So when you enter a creep camp, checking the timer will help ensure that you stack the camp if possible. And when you finish a camp, it helps ensure that you know how many camps you'll be able to finish before the next minute mark. And it also might set you up to make sure you intercept a creep wave in time, make sure that you stack the next camp in time. These are the three, I believe, bare bones, most crucial, essential times to check the clock in the game. There are many more. I think best players in the world, we probably check the clock like 20 to 30 times a minute. I'm not asking you to do what pro level players do. I know that most of you understand that you are supposed to check the clock. But now, rather than thinking, gosh, I keep forgetting to check the clock, I want you to have this written down somewhere, maybe on a sticky note, maybe whatever form works for you, that I am supposed to check the timer at these 3 instances. So, this entire video has been about not what decisions I'm supposed to make, not about imparting new knowledge on you. Hopefully some of you learned something in this video, but it's emphasizing that to have good habits, to ensure that you are using the information that you already have and that you are being consistent with your decision making and execution. It's learning the significance of when to make these decisions, not what decisions to be made. I also hopefully answered good options in a lot of these scenarios for what you could consider being your options. But the things we went over is when you get 2 range creeps during the laning phase, when the enemy creeps walk into your tower during the laning phase, pre-game assessing what skill build you have going into the game and the importance of impact of your skills and who they should be used on and who they should be used against, such that you don't end up in the middle of the game with a spell that you needed or you push the button too early. Number 4 is when you enter the mid lane, carefully considering what half of the map you go to next. And number 5 is checking the timer at the 3 instances we mentioned. Leaving a lane / finishing a creep wave, ending an objective / team fight, and entering or leaving a jungle camp. For today's sponsor, this video has been brought to you guys by yours truly, the website that I've made. I have invested hundreds of dollars into bsjdota.com, giving you all of the latest news with Brad G. I mean, BSJ and the coaching content, the YouTube content, the personal content, the Twitch content, a monthly blog, and more. Check it out now. Hundreds of dollars, guys. Get it while it's hot. We'll be putting a lot more effort into this as well as the community. Please check it out yourselves, bsjdota.com. I hope you guys learned something from this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Please like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys.